Magandang araw po ulit sa ating lahat at welcome sa Module 9 ng ating Civil Service Exam Review Program. So, ang topic ng Module 9 ay General Information. Okay. In my opinion, itong subject na to ang isa sa mga pinakamahirap na subjects dito sa sa career service exam. Why? Kasi una, the topic is very broad, general information is as general as it can get. So kumbaga, although meron tayong guide kung ano yung mga kasali sa exam at kung alin ang hindi, these are very wide in range, kaya sometimes you just don't know what to review, pero what I will be giving you today is yung mga topics that are always seen sa mga exams, and of course only those pertaining sa batas, because I think that is my specialty. I cannot discuss other topics that are not really within that realm. So before we begin, let me give you some recommended readings for this part. These recommended readings, hindi ko to discuss isa-isa, but I will just give you a brief rundown of some of them, and you will have to search for the rest. Hanapin niyo yung iba. Kung hindi kayo naintindihan, you can consult, of course, doon sa ating classroom. So first and foremost is yung 1987 Constitution. So the 1987 Constitution, ang pinaka-latest na version ng ating saligang batas ng ating Constitution, and meron tayong tinatawag na Doctrine of Constitutional Supremacy, wherein lahat ng batas sa Pilipinas kailangan naka-conform dito sa Constitution. Kailangan they agree with the Constitution. Otherwise, kung hindi, they are declared unconstitutional, and therefore hindi sila valid as law. So, it's very important for us to understand itong 1987 Constitution, because the structure ng gobyerno natin, yung mga karapatan natin, yung mga provisions pertaining sa ating ekonomiya, tungkol sa at iba pang mga topics are seen in this legal document. So kailangan nating tignan yung Constitution, because doon nakasaad lahat nung mga kailangan nating malaman about sa batas ng Pilipinas in general. So I will be giving you somehow I think sufficient knowledge tungkol sa 1987 Constitution as we finish this recording. So that's first, of course. Republic Act number 6713. Ano tong Republic Act number 6713? Itong batas na ito ay tumutukoy sa ethical standards ng public officials and employees. Ibig sabihin, bilang mga empleyado ng pamahalaan, we need to take into consideration these things, kasi this is what will guide us kung ano ang dapat gawin at kung ano ang mga hindi dapat gawin as members as future na civil servants. You are taking the civil service exam, practically most of you, because gusto niyo ma-permanent sa gobyerno, or you want eventually to venture into government service. Kaya kailangan nating malaman itong ethical standards under 6713. Ito magiging guide natin kung ethical ba yung mga ginagawa natin or not. So that's 6713. Another one is RA 3019. Ito naman, RA 3019 is focused more on yung graft and corrupt practices ng mga public officials and employees. So sa batas na to, pinapunish yung mga corrupt na acts ng bawat empleyado ng pamahalaan, at tinitingnan din dito kung ano yung mga obligasyon natin bilang mga public servants, one of which is yung filing ng SALN, etc. But we will be giving you a brief background on this later. Okay? So, another one is yung Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is similar sa ating Bill of Rights, although there are some things na hindi mo makikita sa Bill of Rights natin na nasa Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, itong Universal Declaration of Human Rights ay yung set ng karapatan natin and universally as as an international community, ano. And ito yung some of the parts nung Bill of Rights natin were lifted from this declaration, and the Philippines is signatory sa Universal Declaration of Human Rights na to. So you will see yung similarities niya sa mga batas natin and more. Okay? So of course hindi mawawala, there are several instances already in the civil service exam na may mga tinatanong ng mga current events. And I think this is a very important thing to know. Kaya as much as possible dapat you are a wide reader. Malawak dapat ang ano mo, malawak dapat ang reading activities mo. You watch the news, mga ganyan, in order for you to be oriented sa current events. But these are special times, ano? Itong panahon na to is are really special times na we are in a pandemic, mga ganyan. So I believe that the COVID-19 pandemic in general at yung protocols on COVID-19 would be part of yung exam. That's just a hunch, pero might as well read up on COVID-19, ano? And also the upcoming SONA, siguro makinig tayo ng upcoming SONA ng Pangulo. So that we'll be oriented kung ano yung mga projects ng gobyerno, kung ano yung accomplishments natin, kung ano yung mga shortcomings ng government, although I doubt if that will be discussed there. Pero at least it's good to be on track sa mga kung ano ang progress natin bilang isang nation under the Duterte administration. Also, this is very important because this is the last SONA of the president before another administration steps in, ano. So it's good to know kung ano yung contents ng SONA ng Pangulo. Okay? So itong listahan na to ay guide lang kung ano yung mga dapat nyong basahin for this specific part of the exam. Ito kasing general information, mukhang it requires you really to read a lot, ano? And I believe it's really not appropriate for me to do it like the other subjects na na multiple choice kung i-present yung discussion, but I choose to present it in a way na it gives you a general insight without really having to answer questions, mga ganyan. Kasi wala namang technique in answering these questions. I believe so, except siguro process of elimination. But na-discuss ko na yung process of elimination last time, and this time, ang gagawin natin is we will just load you with information regarding primarily itong unang tatlong topics dito, which are yung 1987 Constitution, yung 6713, and RA 3019. So let's start with the 1987 Constitution. Of course, the very first article ng 1987 Constitution is yung national territory natin, which is Article 1 of 1987 Constitution. But siguro as as additional na tip na rin, you might want to memorize yung preamble natin. Malay mo lang, it might give you an insight, for example, sa isang situational na case, situational na question. But and most of us naman memorize yun because of yung high school and college. So might as well learn it, But eto. So we go to national territory, which can be also considered as part of current events kasi of course because of the territorial dispute within sa West Philippine Sea, ano? Sa South China Sea, and a portion of which is yung West Philippine Sea na tinatawag natin. So what comprises yung national territory ng Pilipinas? Okay. First, we have what we call yung three territorial domains. Itong domains na to, ito yung saklaw ng teritoryo ng Pilipinas. Ano? So, as we all know, the Philippines is an archipelago. Mamaya madidiscuss natin yung kung ano yung concept ng archipelago. But for now, for the purpose of discussing these three territorial domains, we need to consider kung ano ba yung ano yung extent ng ating teritoryo. So first, the first domain is yung terrestrial. By terrestrial, we mean the land mass, and what's in it. Ano? Kung ano yung mga nandun sa lupa na yon, that forms part of our territory. Next, fluvial. Okay? When we say fluvial naman, kung yung sa terrestrial lupa, sa fluvial tubig. Ibig sabihin, kung yung sa terrestrial from the deepest reach nung lupa ang covered ng teritoryo natin, yung fluvial, as long as nasa tapat pa siya ng teritoryo ng Pilipinas, up to the deepest part ng water is part of our fluvial domain. Ibig sabihin, we can claim it as the territory of the Philippines kahit na gaano kalalim yan, basta you are within the limits of the archipelago. Okay? And finally, we have what we call the aerial domain. Itong aerial domain naman, kung yung sa terrestrial lupa, sa fluvial tubig, itong sa aerial domain is the airspace above us. So, basta hindi pa siya outer space, and it as far as humans can reach, sa taas, sa hangin, that still forms part of the territory of the Philippines. As long as nasa tapat ka ng territorial boundaries. Kunwari, nasa tapat, right where I am now, so I'm in the Philippines, ano? So, kung ano man yung airspace sa tapat ko, sa taas ng bubong namin, that is still part of yung aerial domain ng Pilipinas. And even yung sa height na naabot ng airplane, mga ganon, those are still part of our aerial domain. Okay. Of course, basta wag lang outer space because that's another thing. Ano? So, those are the domains of our territory. Ibig sabihin, we exercise sovereign rights, we exercise our sovereignty rather, dito sa mga areas na to. So, terrestrial, fluvial, at aerial domain. So, basically, kahit na maghukay ka dyan sa lupa, or sumisid ka sa tubig, basta nandun ka sa boundary ng archipelago ng Pilipinas, you are still in the Philippines. That is still part of our territory. So siguro that is sufficient for yung sa domains. And let's discuss now itong doctrine, itong archipelagic doctrine na tinatawag natin. It is a doctrine which states that an archipelagic state is to be considered as a singular unit. Kasama yung the waters around it. Okay? Ang Pilipinas ay isang archipelago. Ano bang ibig sabihin when we say that a country is an archipelago? Sa Pilipinas is one example of an archipelago. Ang isang archipelago ay a number of islands na hiwa-hiwalay which are connected by water. So, in the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea, ang Pilipinas, although hiwa-hiwalay siya, as you can see in our map, it is considered as a single unit. How? Paano yung nangyayari yun? Kung papansinin yung mapa natin, di ba merong linya doon. Those are what we call baselines. Kumbaga, ginawa nila ng limits yung territory natin. Kasama na doon yung mga tubig na nandoon sa loob ng mga isla na yon. So, it is considered as one singular unit kahit kalat-kalat yung pulo. And then, from that baseline, we will measure yung tinatawag natin na regimes nung nung dagat natin. So, yun. That is the archipelagic doctrine. So, ang Pilipinas ba isang archipelago? Again, that is, the correct answer is yes. Okay? So, everything na nakapaloob doon sa baselines natin, that is part of our territory. Okay. Meron tayong 3 maritime regimes na tinatawag. Itong territorial sea, contiguous zone, at exclusive economic zone. Okay. Ano tong territorial sea? Itong territorial sea, ito yung area ng tubig na part pa rin ng territory natin, which is 12 nautical miles mula sa mga baseline na nakadrawing sa ating mapa. Okay. 12 nautical miles mula sa mga coast natin, mula doon sa dinrawing na baseline, that is still part of our territory. We exercise sovereignty dyan sa mga lugar na yan. That is still that's still ours. Teritoryo pa natin yan. Now, bakit ganon? Bakit tayo nagkaroon ng karapatan over yung 12 nautical miles mula sa mga mula sa mga baseline natin? It is because of the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea. Lagi na naririnig yung UNCLOS, So UNCLOS, sinabi doon na with after the baselines, mag-count ka pa ng 12 nautical miles, that is part of the territorial sea. Okay? Now, there is another zone na tinatawag natin na contiguous zone. Ano itong contiguous zone naman? Ito yung 12 nautical miles mula doon sa dulo ng territorial sea. So, kumbaga, di ba, ito si baseline. Here is your territorial sea, itong in between my palms, and add another 12 nautical miles there, that is yung contiguous zone ng Pilipinas. Now, the contiguous zone is important in international law, but for our purposes, basta it's good to know what these contiguous zones are, kasi dito pwedeng magkaroon ng enforcement ng customs laws, ng sanitary laws ng Pilipinas, and all of these other laws na naka-mention under yung provision on contiguous zone. And eto na yung medyo contentious na issue regarding the West Philippine Sea, yung exclusive economic zone na tinatawag. So, ano yung exclusive economic zone? So, mula dun sa baseline, kung saan natin dinraw kanina yung territorial sea, magka-count ka ng 200 nautical miles mula dun sa baseline. That is what is considered yung exclusive economic zone ng Pilipinas. So again, remember this 12 nautical miles territorial sea, 24 nautical miles from the baseline, or 12 nautical miles from territorial sea ang contiguous zone, 200 nautical miles ang exclusive economic zone. Okay. You don't need to be an expert siguro sa these maritime regimes, pero I think that you need to know this basic itong areas na to. So yon. Again, 12, 24, 12, 12, 200. Okay? Now, let's go to our principles and state policies. Yung section 2, which is the Declaration of Principles and State Policies, dito mo makikita yung mga general provisions ng ating constitution. Kumbaga, ito yung parang summary ng lahat ng mga madidiscuss sa mga susunod pang mga articles ng Constitution. Although sa law school, this is not law school, although sa law school, they parang medyo brushed aside itong Article 2, pero I think for the purpose of the civil service exam, this is a very important article to read. Itong bibigay ko sa inyo, very lang to short lang siya, pero you can read up on it sa online. Or you can just read the provisions para naman mag-guide lang kayo kung ano yung mga prinsipyo ng Constitution, ano yung mga polisiya ng pamahalaan ng Estado. Okay? So first, the Philippines is a democratic and republican state. What does this mean? The Philippines as a Republican and as a democratic and Republican state means na una, let's tackle yung democratic. Okay. It is democratic in a sense that we are under the rule of democracy, meaning it is the rule of the people. Kumbaga, tayong lahat ang nagdedesisyon. I mean, in principle, we get to decide what the fate of our country. Kumbaga, tayo makapagdesisyon kung ano yung magiging fate ng bansa natin. We elect our leaders, mga ganyan. We have the right to speak out against our government, against the state, mga ganyan. We have a lot of freedoms. That's why we are a democratic country. But also, we're also a Republican state. Ano itong Republican? Kapag sinabing Republican, we are led by certain leaders. Kumbaga most of the time, hindi direct yung democracy natin. Kumbaga, we are represented. Kaya tayo nag-i-elect ng mga presidente natin, mga senador, ng mga members ng House of Representatives, because we are represented by our leaders. Kumbaga, yes, we decide because we are a democratic country. Tayong lahat nagde-decide because we are democratic na nasabi natin kanina, ano? Pero we are also Republican in a sense na we elect our leaders who can represent us, who we want will represent us. Kumbaga, whoever you vote for is a reflection of what you like, supposedly. Ano? Kung ano dapat yung gusto mo, dapat nare-reflect doon sa binoto mong kandidato. So if you're really passionate about, for example, about healthcare, mga ganyan, in theory, you are supposed to vote for someone who is championing your cause for healthcare. Parang ganon, ano? So we are led by representatives. So we are not really governing ourselves on our own, but we are doing so with the help of our representatives. So dapat yung representatives natin mas represent kung ano yung mga pangangailangan natin, kung ano yung mga kagustuhan natin as a nation, as a state. Okay. Here, another principle of within the Constitution is yung renunciation of war as an instrument of national security. Ang policy dapat ng pamahalaan ay kailangan i-renounce natin. Kumbaga kailangan wag nating i-entertain yung idea ng war bilang policy towards to maintain our national security. So yung idea na if you're toying with the idea na paano naman kung magkagera, mga ganyan. Now, we are not supposed to do that kasi we renounce nga yung war as an instrument of national security. We don't really agree na kailangan ng wars. In fact, we are a signatory to a convention na saying na we renounce war. Okay. However, we should qualify this, Syempre kung inaatake ka na, we need to defend. And yung defense na to, in that case, justified yung war. Pero kung ikaw yung magsisimula ng war, that's not really something that is constitutional. Okay. Next, separation of church and state. The Constitution says, kailangan separate ang church at state. Ibig sabihin, we are separating yung yung governance, yung ating government, dapat supposedly hiwalay siya sa church. The government cannot impinge on sa karapatan ng mga tao natin to a religion. Hindi dapat nakikialam ang gobyerno sa affairs ng religion unless of course needed. Yun yung natin. By needed, I mean yung as in matter of life and death na siya, that certain religion is killing the citizens, mga ganun. Pero otherwise, di dapat makialam ang gobyerno sa affairs ng church. That is the separation of church and state na tinatawag natin. Okay. This is a typo, but civilian authority. Okay. What is this civilian authority provision ng Constitution natin? Itong provision ng civilian authority states na the commander-in-chief ng ating armed forces ay dapat civilian. So in our case, in the case of the Philippines, ang ano natin, ang ng head ng armed forces natin is our president. So since he is a civilian, yun yung bakit yung president? Because he needs to be a civilian, and the president is a civilian. So that provision of the Constitution is followed sa ngayon, and it has been followed since 1987 naman. So no worries about that. So of course, you need the protection of the family, the rights of a mother and unborn children. So we need to protect the rights ng nanay, and at the same time yung unborn children. We need to weigh yung karapatan ng magulang at unborn children when making familial decisions. Okay? Or even professional decisions like for sa mga doktor. Okay. Comprehensive rural development and agrarian reform. Nakasaad sa ano natin, sa constitution natin, na kailangan magkaroon ng development in our rural areas at magkaroon dapat ng agrarian reform. Ano tong agrarian reform? Dun sa mga agricultural lands, they must be kailangan walang monopoly ng agricultural lands, no one is allowed to gain as much agricultural land as possible, and kung may tenants or may recipients ng comprehensive agrarian reform law, the land must be distributed to the farmers, mga ganun, to those who cultivate the land. Hindi pwedeng pagmayarian ng mga landlords ang lupa at forever tenants yung mga magsasaka. That is the concept of agrarian reform. Okay. There must be honesty and integrity in the public service. Of course, that's why pag-aaralan natin later on yung concept ng RA 6713 at RA 3019, because we want honesty and integrity in public service. Okay? So, those are the principles and state policies under Article 2 ng ating Constitution.